I said switch to Big Night Owl!
Big Night Out brings you another Saturday roundup of the stars, with Mike and Bernie Winters introducing the fabulous Beatles, Billy Dainty, Patsy Ann Noble, Sally Barnes, the ABC television show band, and Lionel Blair and his dancers.
Well, thanks, Sally and Bobby. And now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls...
It's my favourites now!
I know. So let's give a great big welcome and meet the fabulous Beatles!
One obligation the Beatles were happy to see the back of was the BBC radio series that carried their name in the title. Recording Pop Go The Beatles had become a dreadful chore. Relations with the production team had never really thawed following Terry Henneberry's slip of the tongue over those bloody Beatles. Everyone agreed the show had served its quid pro quo purpose. The BBC had enjoyed a ratings boost, and the Beatles had basked in prime-time exposure and the novelty of having their own eponymous programme, the type of which they'd grown up with.
Dear, handsome, talented John, I think you're marvellous. I've never seen you in real life, but would... but would give almost anything to see you walking down the road. I have identical fair triplet sisters of 21 who think you are just as fab as I do. Please please me and send me a handwritten... What? Send a handwritten with your signature at the bottom if you have time.
It was the excitement of hearing She Loves You. No record had ever been made that sounded anything like She Loves You. And it was so dramatic, so immediate, so incredibly infectious and engaging that it was like, even though I was 5 and I didn't know anything about what had preceded the Beatles, I knew it was new. And it just hooked me completely in the way that it hooked so many other people. And my mother, who was then 39, who in her younger years had been a fan of Hollywood film idols and had kept scrapbooks like a lot of kids did in 1930s. She cut out a photograph of the Beatles from a magazine and stuck it on our kitchen door. Well, she didn't do that at all at this point in her life, but the Beatles appealed.
In those days, we're talking here about the early 1960s, if you were successful, and particularly successful, there might be an offer to make a film. The kind of films that were made, well, there were two types of rock and roll film. One was what was disparagingly known as a jukebox musical, in which various hit artists of the day would stand before the cameras. They would go to the studios for one day or maybe even half a day, do a number or two. There would be the thinnest of plots that would weave this disconnected bunch of songs together. And then they would chuck this out. The low budget is absolutely the word for it, or the phrase for it. The Beatles, as soon as they had a hit record, were offered the opportunity to be in a film like that. And they knew, because they had been going themselves to the Odeon or the Gaumont or the Palais Deluxe or wherever it was, and they knew that those kind of films were really dire, and they didn't ever want to be in one. And as soon as they were successful, they were offered the opportunity to go to a film studio and be in such films, and they said no. Now, this was highly unusual, because usually, for a start, the manager of the group would tell you, you're going to be in this film. The Beatles told Brian Epstein, their manager, from the start, we're not going to do any of those films. If you get any offers, you can tell them where to go. And Brian did get those offers, and Brian said, look, you can if you like, you can be in this film. And they said no. And this is a mark of how extraordinary they were as artists, because they had no knowledge when saying no that there would ever be another opportunity for them to say yes. Well, they themselves made the first approach. There was a Liverpool Welsh writer called Alun Owen, and he wrote the play on television in 1959 called No Tram to Lime Street.
She's like the wink from a fancy woman. Liverpool, the Garden of Eden of the North. Hello, Liverpool!
Which was a real hard-hitting social drama about life in Liverpool at the tough end. His work was respected. Paul McCartney certainly watched it go out on ITV that night in '59. I think Brian Epstein did. I'm not sure about the other Beatles, but they all knew who he was. And in September of 1963, they got Brian Epstein to write a letter to Alun Owen saying, if ever we make a film, we would like you to write it.
You see, what we found was that the recording studios were in London, right? The television studios were in London. The photographers were in London, you know. The BBC that we did a lot of was in London.
It was impossible to go home. And also, it's very true. If you're in our business, you go to London. I mean, that's where it happens. That we go out into the places to be seen, or where it's happening is the. It's just a natural move.
First of all, we got a flat in Mayfair. There was in a street called Green Street, and it was just a rental flat. And I was very used to, like, home comforts.
Right.
Not luxury, but home comforts, you know. So I liked there to be a meal available somewhere, you know. And I wasn't... The guys got into the flat before I did, and when I got there, they said, "There's your room."
And it was horrible.
It was a very little.
You got the crap room.
I got the crap room.
Did you say, "Hey, I'm writing most of these songs here. What about me?"
Move out. I want the big room.
Yeah, Ringo, you're just a drummer.
So I was not happy in this place. And the thing is, I look at it now and I think, well, anyone else would go in there and think, okay, we've got to furnish this place, got to make it like home. We didn't think like that.
Guys don't think like that.
No, we just went, there's nothing on the walls.
We got this flat, and it was such a buzz, really, because, you know, we'd been brought up in these little 2 up, 2 down houses in Liverpool. To have a posh flat in Mayfair, you know, with a bathroom each and all that.
We'd go to the saddle rooms where the Inn on the Park is now. It used to be a club, and they had Prince Philip was a member. That was always the deal for us. Prince Philip's living with Helen Godet, you know, and I don't know if he was. And they used to have this horse and coach outside, and there'd be 2 little drunken Beatles in the back of this coach being taken home to Green Street up Park Lane, clip-clop. Well, this is 2 shit-kickers from Liverpool. I mean, this is far-out news here. Yeah, let's take the carriage. Okay.
Mick was saying, hey, we've got a recording contract, you know, we're with Decca now. So Mick said, have you got a song? So I said, I know a song.
Which we virtually finished off in front of them because they needed a record. They'd put out Come On by Chuck Berry and they needed a quick follow-up. And we went in and I remember teaching it to them, you know.
We've got this Ringo song off the album and it's not going to be a single for us, but maybe you guys could take it.
We hadn't finished it, you know, Paul just had this bit and, we need another verse or something, and we sort of played it roughly to them and they said, yeah, okay, that's our style. So Paul and I just went off in the corner of the room and finished the song off while they were all still there talking, and we came back, and that's when Mick and Keith got inspired to write. They said, Jesus, look, they just went in the corner and wrote it and came back.
They gave us our first big hit in England, which was a song they wrote called I Want to Be Your Man. And we were very grateful for that because that really broke us in England. But the example of the way they wrote and the original way that they crafted their songs wasn't lost on us.
All I've Got to Do.
That's me trying to do Smokey Robinson.
Second Time is interesting because that's the song that the London Times music critic William Mann said had all those sub-medium key switches in the Aeolian cadences. I guess that means he liked it.
Not a Second Time. It was one of those ones that were written at the Times as with the Aeolian cadences and all that, but I still don't know what it means at the end, you know. To me, I was writing a Smokey Robinson or something at the time.
His
And I did it on the album. I did another track first, which didn't really work out, and then we decided we'll do I Want to Be Your Man.
But in the early days, we were really set on giving people their money's worth off the record. And that was our policy first, just to put 14 tracks aside that was brand new and never put singles on the albums, which everybody did was have a hit single and make an album around it.
Messages to Australia from the Beatles.
It's over here.
Okay, here we go.
Hope it does.
Hello, Bob Rogers in Australia. This is John Lennon of the Beatles here. Hope you're okay, Bob.
This is Paul McCartney of the Beatles speaking, Bob. I hope you're still playing our records. George Harrison here, Bob. Just like to say, I hope our current record, goes as well out there as it has done over here.
Hello, Bob. This is Ringo. Hope they've got the LP out there and it's selling, and hope we can come out and see you sometime soon.
Kill it. There's only one thing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Messages to Australia, take two.
What can I say? I can't...
Very
Okay.
quickly, in saying yes and thank you very much.
Bob, this is Paul here.
Okay. Hello, Bob Rogers in Australia. This is John Lennon of the Beatles here. We hear you've been playing our records.
Huh?
What?
We hear you.
Keep the mic on, hit something.
Oh, I'm sorry. No.
Take three.
Hello, Bob...
Bob Rogers.
Hello, Bob Rogers in Australia. This is John Lennon of the Beatles here in London. We believe you've been playing our records.
Yeah, Bob, this is Paul here, and we'd like to thank you very much for playing them, and keep going, pal. Yeah, this is George, Bob. Just like to say, we hope our current release goes as well in Australia as it has done over here in England.
This is Ringo. I'd just like to say we've heard such a lot about your country that I can't wait to get out there and see you all.
It's an open message to the Australians. Take one.
Hello, Australia!
Hello, Australia. This is John Lennon of the Beatles here. I hope you're all having a great time over there.
This is Paul speaking. We're hoping to come over soon and visit Australia. This is George. That's if you move it a few thousand miles nearer.
Hello.
That was Ringo, folks.
Well, what can I say?
And goodbye from all of us.
Well, this is Ringo. Everyone seems to have said everything here, so I'll just sign off by saying cheerio and best of luck from the Beatles.
The Beatles, fittingly, were top of the bill, while the Stones were allotted the opening slot. It was the siege of the Beatle Crushers, 6,000 screaming teenagers intent on crushing just 4 Beatles. Never has the Royal Albert Hall seen scenes quite like it. Even for Britain's newly elected top vocal group, it was bewildering. They were the target for anything the teenagers could lay their hands on. Girls swept out of their seats and tried to rush the stage. They were repelled by a solid block of 40 commissionaires.
Well, he was just, very, very excited and just, well, not excited, but he was, amazed at how different it was.
Yeah.
But he also found, that the people were really friendly and kind. And nobody knew anything about him being anybody other than the fact that he was my brother,
Yeah.
And that we were the new people in town that had come from.
Of course.
We'd been in Canada, we'd been in South America, so we were considered rather exotic, And then here comes my kid brother, And so that was interesting, but they didn't recognize that he was sort of famous in England, and he didn't want that to be known anyway. He was trying to have a quiet holiday,
Yeah. But of course, you managed to get him up on stage.
Yeah. Yeah, that was quite accidental.
Yeah.
But first live performance of a Beatle in the United States.
Yeah.
The VFW club.
That's it.
He gets up on stage with the local band.
He played with a band called the Four Vests.
The Four Vests.
String band, I suppose.
But he's this scruffy guy. He's got ripped jeans. He's skinny.
Yeah.
He's typical post-war, I guess, English baby. He's skinny.
Absolutely.
He's pale.
Yeah.
He's got these ripped jeans on. He's got scruffy long hair, and he loses his wallet at one point, I think, and it gets handed in.
Yes.
Because it's small town America. They love him and they think he's a bit of a curiosity. But his wallet gets handed in, but someone notices that it's got several $100s in it.
Right.
This idea that, how's this kid got so much money?
Yeah.
And apparently he gets on stage with the Four Vests, slays them. They think he's amazing, and his sister thinks, oh, wait till you hear him with the other three.
Honeymoon was one of the happiest times we had during that period. Usually we saw so little of each other. We stayed in a gorgeous hotel, the George Sank. Luxury took my breath away. Although John was earning more than enough money to afford it, we both felt somehow as though we shouldn't be there, that we might be rumbled and thrown out. The opulence of Paris's grandest hotel was such a world away from anything we'd known before. Determined to make the most of our time, we saw as much of Paris as we could cram in, going up the Eiffel Tower, gazing at the Arc de Triomphe, and exploring Montmartre. John, always generous and now revelling in having money, wanted to spoil me. He bought me armloads of presents, including a gorgeous grey coat, a pretty white berry, and a bottle of Chanel No. 5.
Now, Ringo had originally agreed to accompany George to the States, but his mind had been swayed by tales of blue sky and hot sand, mainly on the recommendation of George Martin, who'd recently holidayed there. And with hindsight, America would have been a much better choice for Ringo, as he quickly discovered that he hated Greek food.